Racing. Now we're able to tell you, in fact, we can see cars on the track as Ryan Reed is making his way through turns 1 and 2. In the shade, Dustin, it's about 60 degrees out there. It's a little chilly this morning.
Yeah, it's I'm talking to some crew chiefs yesterday. They weren't sure there would be too many cars that would go out right at the beginning of practice because, one, it's such a green track and we're going to let others go and clean it off, but also because how cool it is. Here as we see Dakota Armstrong slowly trying to get across the track. But
and scrapes on the side of that. Do we have our first winner? That is a scraped up race car right there. I don't know if that was from before, but that looks recent.
Yep.
He looks a little bit bent right there. The reason we say, and we'll have to confirm as we go along, which cars are not new composite bodies. We don't have that list at the moment. But
I can tell you the 28 is a composite body. The primary is. I did talk with the JGL team. Now their backup, which he doesn't look like he's going to need that at all, but his backup is a steel body car. And you'll see some of the teams went with the composite body for the primary, but for their backup is the steel, the regular car, and there just wasn't enough time for some of these smaller teams to get both cars prepared, or they're wanting to get that car, make sure it's ready for the next time they use the composite body, which would be Dover, and then also they'll be able to use it at Phoenix later this year. So
here's part of the question. The whole garage area, and he definitely had contact, wants to know how quickly these can be repaired and also what caused the damage. And if we have a replay, we'll definitely show it because everyone wants to know what it's going to look like. See, here's where 16 of Ryan Reed is coming in, and we see Dakota Armstrong. He has already been up in the wall. Unfortunately, we don't have a look at the contact, but all eyes will be on the 28 in the garage area now.
Well, I talked to Chris Gabehart, the crew chief for Christopher Bell, and yesterday, and he said that a lot of people, the most popular car in the garage would be the first one that hits the wall or those after, because people are going to see what the damage is like, what kind of repairs you can do, what's it going to take. So I would suspect that there will be a number of either crew chiefs or crew members from other teams looking over that car and any others that hit the wall in this session, because there's just a lot of unknowns. I mean, it's as he was saying, and other crew chiefs were telling me that they just don't have data on what it's going to be like when you hit the wall and what the situation's going to be, and trying to make changes to it. So I've heard everything from if you have damage to a quarter panel, that it could be like an hour long to repair depending on what other damage you have with the car, to a little bit less than that. But these guys just don't know.
So going back to the original discussion of the whole thing that NASCAR had with everyone when we were invited to the R&D Center in Concord, Brett Bodine talked about an incident in practice. The rear quarter panel, let's say, it got damaged. He said it can be easily unbolted from the other body panels and from the chassis, and another one can be bolted onto the same spot. So that's the whole idea. And we'll see as Dakota pulls back into the garage what happens there. Well, and I'm thinking the only thing is right now, I bet we don't have a camera down here in this app show. So we're probably not going to be able to show that. So we'll speculate about what's happening down there.
They're all down there right now.
They are.
It's a crowd.
Hey, there could be a good Facebook Live session going on right now to the other teams as JGL makes their repairs.
Maybe some teams doing that to show those back at the shop what they're doing. Now, I know talking to some teams, they were actually bringing in some extra fabricators for this weekend just for this type of situation. Some people with a little bit more experience that can help them and have more knowledge of this that can help over the regular crew guys. So.
And Armstrong, for his part, one of the drivers in trouble in terms of the playoffs with 2 races remaining, enters this weekend 20 points below the cut line and the first guy out. So this is not a good start.
No, but the one thing that's in his favor, in one sense, is that, as you say, he's 20 points behind Brendan Gaughan, but he's also only 23 points behind Michael Annett. So he's not just chasing one driver; he's got 2. So if something, Gaughan has a good race, which admittedly that's not always been the case at this place because this is not a good track for him. But if he has a good race, if Michael Annett doesn't, there's still somebody else out there to go catch. There's still a carrot out there for Dakota, but it's obviously not the way you want to start essentially a 2-hour session on a big day that can determine what your playoff hopes are going to be to hit the wall or on your first lap.
You're getting a good look here at Blake Cook. Cook is 44 points to the good side of the cut line coming in. Dustin's doing math, I can tell.
One thing to note is with this practice session is the 48 of Brennan Poole has a 15-minute hold. And what I'm told from NASCAR is that is for swerving after the Darlington race. So that's the only Xfinity car that should be sitting on pit road, or at some point will be sitting on pit road for 15 minutes before going out onto the track. I know there's a number of practice holds in the Cup Series for the final practice hold, including actually a couple teams that will have 60-minute holds.
Yep, NASCAR trying to put the foot down on some of the things that they don't deem as sportsmanlike within the rules, and that swerving after the race, that's something they really cut down on in the Cup Series. Dustin, my understanding was it was to put things back in compliance following a car that might have been out of compliance during the race, right?
Yeah, it's kind of get everything right, to right everything, I guess you could say. So NASCAR doesn't like that, and so Brennan Poole will sit for 15 minutes.
Casey Mears in the 98. Working around now, big announcement this week that that car will be driven by Bubba Wallace next weekend in this series. Casey trying to give it a good ride here at Richmond.
That'll be what Bubba's first ride since the Pocono Truck Week.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I can't relate to the Truck Series and the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series all at once. I was going to say his first Xfinity ride since the 6 closed down.
Yes.
And he moved on at that point to the 43 Cup car.
Yep.
Dustin's got his eyes on all 3 series, though. That's why he's here this morning. Dustin Long, along with Dave Burns for NBC Sports on the app, bringing you the action from first practice for the Xfinity Series from Richmond. This is a 2-hour session. Dustin already mentioned that there's a few cars in the penalty box to start, but most cars will see nearly 2 hours of practice if they want it.
Yep.
A little bit limited on tires, and of course the conditions aren't exactly what they want all the way through either.
No, that was one of the things that in talking with crew chiefs was just that one thing they did like about earlier in the session is as it did get a little warmer, it's going to be like what they thought the end of the race conditions would be like this evening. So it's not going to be this cold yet. So I think that's partially why we haven't seen as many teams out. But I think you'll see more as the temperatures get up a little bit higher. It's still chilly, as you noted earlier, about 60 degrees. And once it gets up a little bit higher, that'll be related to what it'll be like toward the end of tonight's race. And
fastest lap so far being put up by Cook and Jones. You saw Tyler Reddick there for a moment. 22 this week is Keselowski. Last week Logano was in this car. Painted the same. I appreciate that. At least they kept the Fitzgerald glider kits colors on there for us this weekend.
It's a Fitzgerald throwback.
Yeah, throwback to last week. I like it. I like it.
Now remember this for this car this week. Brian Wilson is the crew chief with Greg Irwin serving a suspension for the 22 car not passing inspection after the Darlington race after Logano finished second there. So now the interesting thing is Brian Wilson served as the interim crew chief for this race in the spring when Greg Irwin also was serving a suspension. So Brian Wilson is the crew chief at Richmond for both races for the 22 car for the engineer. I'm
telling you, it is a bouncing ball to follow. Wednesday was a busy day of announcements, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I mean, with the both the Denny Hamlin's winning cars at Darlington, failing inspection, encumbered wins, similar issues, and so Denny Hamlin is without his crew chief Mike Wheeler for the next 2 races for this weekend and the opening race of the playoffs, and so Chris Gabehart, who is the crew chief for Christopher Bell here on the Xfinity side, will be serving as the crew chief for Denny this weekend on the Cup side. And I talked to Chris yesterday about it, and he says, look, there's so much depth here at Joe Gibbs Racing. I don't have to do anything. I mean, basically my job is to push the button, talk on the radio, and make any last-second gut decision calls. Other than that, these guys know what they're doing, so it's easy enough. And Chris did state that his main focus is to be on the number 20 Xfinity team, and this is and that's an important thing for Christopher Bell. This is his first time at Richmond.
Spencer Gallagher in the 23 making his initial laps. Actually had 9 of them, so he's had as many as anybody out there right now. 5th quick on single lap speeds for Spencer. It's one of those cars that, boy, if they could find something magical here, would be able to get their way into the playoffs, but really points-wise, not an option for Spencer at this point, his first season in the Xfinity Series. And he'll shut it down for now. Just underway, as you can see the clock on the upper left, winding through this 2-hour practice. And this will be the only time the cars get to practice for the Xfinity Series at Richmond today, qualifying later this afternoon, and then racing tonight. A true one-day show.
Yeah, and that's, I think for those teams that I think they kind of like. I mean, in one sense, it was one day for the track, but obviously teams were here yesterday going through inspection. The garage was open from noon to 5, so got that work out of the way. But this is certainly a busy day here today with everything you can catch on NBCSN with Cup and Xfinity action.
And a good ticket. Boy, if you can get the day off of work, what a good day to stay in the stands and just watch cars all day, or get down to the garage area there if you're lucky enough to have a credential and see all the action. These teams work hard. And this will be, thankfully, a little bit of a cooler day.
Yes.
And a chance to maybe not just wear yourself out so much, but man, they work hard all day long.
So can we get the day off to hang out?
No. This is as casual as it gets. Right here, right now, morning practice with a cup of coffee in the Xfinity Series. The car you were talking about, Christopher Bell at the wheel, Chris Gabehart at the helm for crew chief wise. Gabehart's had like 25 different drivers in this car this year, right? Yeah. Bell, just one of the most recent, the Oklahoma youngster, getting another start for his Xfinity career for Joe Gibbs Racing. And on the left, you see the man with the most wins in the series for a regular, that of William Byron. Byron goes on his 3rd time lap here.
It's really interesting looking at him going through 3 and 4. That last time Byron got a little bit off the yellow line, a little bit more, where Bell was able to keep it on the line. Obviously, that's one of the things that they're working on, trying to get that fast way around.
Yeah, there's not a super high groove here, although the second groove will be raced on and will be used for passing during the race, right?
Yeah.
But for qualifying and quick lap times, you want to be down around the yellow line.
And this early in the day still, this is the place to be for sure.
3-car this weekend, Ty Dillon.
Now remember, Ty was in a great position was in a good position to win this race in the spring. He was the leader on the restart with about 5 or 6 to go, but then was penalized for jumping the restart. And that at that point, Kyle Larson, who was restarted 3rd, had gotten ahead of Justin Allgaier, and then Larson restarted on the pole for the last restart and ended up winning the race. I know there was this frustration for the Justin Allgaier team in the sense of like, hey, if he's jumped the restart, why are we not the leaders?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it the 3rd place car? But Ty was in position now he gotten in that position by taking 2 tires on that last stop while others had 4. So it would have been interesting to see if he could have held those guys off, but those guys were laying back as they was coming to the restart line, so he just took off, and NASCAR said, no, you took off too early, and didn't have the opportunity to race for the win there at the end.
A number of times throughout the season, you get a chance to test the referee's will, don't you?
You betcha. And
that was one where Ty found out, no, not going to go for that, even if I was being gamed a little bit by the other guys.
Well, it was just a very bizarre restart because I was going back and watching it, and I mean, so many cars were laying back, and Ty sees it, and he knows what's going on, so he tries to jump them and gets penalized for it when others are doing are having issues.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, who's in the 88 car this weekend?
Familiar guy and a familiar number, and familiarly, good word, quick at Richmond. 4th already for Earnhardt Jr.
Now the junior motorsports cars, all 5 of those cars here this weekend. The primary cars are the composite cars, and they also have 4 backups. So they have 4 that are composite body cars as well. So they've built 9 composite body cars here, and so it's been a lot of work for that team. And I talked with Kelly Earnhardt Miller last week at Darlington, and she's kind of been playing the role not only as co-owner but HR manager because their HR person's out. She's like, I've been approving all this overtime for the Fab Shop the last couple months. So she goes, I know how much they're working.
Well, it's a little bit ironic because part of the rub in the industry is that true fabricators are being sort of moved over for this body assembly type job that'll be used in the future. But right now, they're the guys that know kind of where things need to be and are hung in the right places. So they really are necessary at this point, the full load of them and all their hours, as you're saying. It's going to be interesting how that works out in the future.
Yes.
The whole idea, and the cars look fantastic, by the way. We're looking at race cars that we cannot, from this distance for sure, tell that they've moved to the composite body. So it's a very good look for the series. They fit the templates the same way when they go through technical inspection. The difference is going to be in the material used and how quickly they're assembled, and of course the economy involved, and those are several of the reasons why NASCAR wanted to go this way.
And NASCAR tells me that there were 30 composite cars among the primary cars that went through inspection yesterday. So most of the field will be of that composite, and obviously there'll be some of the smaller teams that didn't have the time or the resources to do it. We'll be back with the steel body cars, and there's a weight differential of about 150 or so pounds. The composite cars will be lighter, so the end point is to be, to create a little bit of an advantage, or I guess encouragement to use the composite body car. And again, those teams can use those here. Dover, Phoenix. Next year, they're able to use them in all races other than the super speedways. And then in 2019, the plan is for NASCAR is to have the composite body cars mandatory at all the races.
I know you got a close-up look at a few of them yesterday. One of the questions I had after reading some of the reports, NASCAR wants to be very sure that the teams understand that you don't use a composite body filler in places where you may have in the past, nor on the seams where the pieces are joined together. My question was, what about the body wraps? Do they cut those with a knife to make sure that they go in between the panels, or can you actually lay a race wrap type covering when you get your your sponsors set up and your numbers and everything? Can you lay that over the seams?
When you walk up to the cars and you're up close, and as Jeremy Clements is up close to Matt Tiff there, is that a message from?
I don't think Tiff gave him a whole lot of room, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that a little Road America reminder there? Or?
Thank you, Matt. Sorry, you were saying?
No, if you're up close to these cars, you can see the seams, so you can see but again, from our camera angle, if you're here looking from afar, you can't. You have to be up close, but you can kind of see the jigsaw puzzle that kind of goes together in creating the body, putting the body panels together and making them fit properly. So, like I said, when you look at them from afar, the cars look exactly the same. You can't tell a difference. It's only when you're, a foot away from the car or something like that. And as you mentioned, also the inspection process is the same. They're not making teams do anything different, at this point. And now, some of us did go to the NASCAR R&D Center this week, and we did get a preview of the new inspection bay for next year. And it'll be out at Chicago, where it will make its debut. And basically, NASCAR is going to bring it out to a few tracks, during the playoffs, and they'll have essentially non-playoff cars go through there just to kind of go through the process, so the teams can learn what NASCAR's looking at. NASCAR can kind of further refine. It's a camera system. It shoots all these photos of the cars in milliseconds, and you get all these different points, and it kind of has all these measurements. So it's a more accurate, quicker way of doing things, and
it's a different way, so it's not an LIS, a laser inspection.
Well, the LIS,
like it was before?
It combines 3 different stations in one, where normally the stations are like 3 minutes to go through. Now through this process, it's 90 seconds to go through this new station that combines 3 previous stations. So,
fantastic.
We'll see. We'll see what teams think.
Yes. No, it's a good give and take right now between the sanctioning body and the teams, trying to not just get the sport under control in terms of rules, judgment, and things like that, but also getting pushback from the garage on what's practical, what's logical, and what's the best way to do it to get us all on a basically equal playing field, but then putting on a good show for the fans. And I know I tired of talking about cars going through inspection for the umpteenth time, and I'm sure the sport did too.
Yes.
So how do they make that right? How do they make that more appealing to the folks who go there? When I go to another venue for a sporting event, I don't necessarily want to hear about the rules and things like that so much. So I know NASCAR is about competition. They're about having a good show for the fans, and that is the ultimate goal.
But it'll be interesting to see what happens next week at Chicago, another mile and a half where, at the mile and a half tracks, that's where you often see teams have a tough time going through the inspection because they're pushing the limits. So for the opening playoff race, it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do and how challenging that'll be for teams to get through inspection.
I think I'm right. This is the last race we'll see Kyle Busch in the Xfinity Series for this year.
Number 10.
Okay. So the rules this year, they're getting tweaked slightly for next year, but basically rolling in through the playoffs, if you've got 5 or more years of experience and you've used up your 10 races in Kyle's case, and we're, not in Homestead, we might see you, but if you've used them up and if you're more than 5 years, we're not going to see you.
Yeah, you're not going to be in the playoffs. And then next year, the number drops to 7 races.
Okay, so no playoffs at all, not just Homestead.
Nope, no playoffs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the short list that I wanted, I'm turning around looking at Jimmy, is I want the short list of the drivers who have less than 5 years of experience, who we might see in the playoffs, except for Homestead, because they're not even allowed.
Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, Ty Dillon, Brian Blaney.
I don't know why I looked at Jimmy then. Jimmy's writing. Dustin's brain is working. So that was 4 right there. So
Eric Jones is the 5th one.
There you go. Okay, so that's your fast 5, if you will.
Fast 5
that we will likely see up until Homestead.
Yep.
Okay. Kyle shuts it down and not fastest at this point. Shocking. He'll be there later, I'm sure. Here's Denny Hamlin winning. Challenged Logano. Nice little slide job there. But Denny with the payback off of 4. And that was exciting. However, doesn't really count. So, yeah, the encumbered win for the 18.
And the encumbered runner-up finish.
That's right, the top 2. As good a show as that was. Christopher Bell in this car this week for Joe Gibbs Racing. Bell, for his part, has had 16 laps on the track so far. 17th quick on the board. And again, they've got 2 hours to mess with this and not that many tires to work with. So they've got to be a little bit cautious and pick their timing. I know you passed along a note yesterday, Dustin, where Gaughan's crew chief Shane Wilson said, I'm going to run, and then I'm going to wait about 20 minutes, and I'm going to run, wait about 20 minutes, and then run again, and not use my stuff all up, but take advantage of the different and changing conditions throughout the 2 hours.
Yep, cool those tires off. And just to go back to the 18, we mentioned that the encumbered finish, so without the crew chief there. So serving as a crew chief this weekend is Matt Lucas, who is the Xfinity shop manager over at JGR. So another different crew chief because of what happened last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt's been called in a couple of times this year, if I recall.
Yep.
It's good to have depth at your team these days. Between the lug nut violations at the end of the race, I know Earnhardt Jr. in the Cup Series, he will be missing Greg Ives this week. And between that and other rules violations in post-race inspection, you better have someone on the bench ready to go.
So who am I filling in for today?
You're channeling your inner Letarte and Burton to some degree. Of course, you could have been. Who else did we see through here? We ran a lot of people through here, Dustin. You could be one of 10 people. Kyle, Mike Bagley was in here before Watkins Glen. Yeah, so And Parker Kligerman, by the way, has just gotten his wake-up call. He's going to be joining us at the top of the hour for more fun with Dustin. And I'm going to be heading off to the Cup Garage to get ready for Cup Series practice at 10 a.m. That's the first practice this morning. Here's the 00 back to their traditional colors after channeling their inner Sam Ard last week.
It was a nice-looking car.
It was.
You know, that's a car that set for the playoffs. I talked with Jeff Mendery and the crew chief over there yesterday, and he says they're going to try some different stuff this weekend since they're set for the playoffs and trying to learn more things about what they can do with the car. And also, he feels like that this could help. What they learn here could help them for Phoenix, particularly turns 1 and 2 over there. So that there's still some value in trying to experiment a little bit here and do some things to maybe help during the playoffs.
Well, they're not running data pickup per se on these cars during practice. So what is a crew chief like Jeff telling you that he can actually pick up from here? Is it getting photos of the car and seeing how it's set, the feedback from the driver? What kinds of things do you think?
I think it's all of that. It's just you're going to try maybe different setups or try a different approach to the weekend and kind of take all the data points that you can collect and kind of say, okay, all right, we know what it says on the scoreboard, on the timing board. How did the car feel? What did it do this? Maybe it's not as fast, but the driver feels comfort, so we're in the right direction with comfort. How do we find that speed? Or is the driver uncomfortable? Okay, we need to go away from this because that's not going to get us anywhere. So it's just another way of trying to get to the same solution, but trying it a different way. Because you've got a little bit of freedom in one sense. I mean, there's still obviously stage points and playoff points up there, so there's still something out there, but this is still an opportunity to kind of try something for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. William Byron now second quick on the scoring pylon.
And one thing to note, Jimmy's passing on a nice note, is that Allgaier at Phoenix led 85 laps earlier this year, then came back here at Richmond and led 157 laps. So you can have a little bit of that correlation between the two tracks. And obviously Justin was incredibly strong here in the spring and just didn't, in talk with Jason Burdett, the crew chief with Justin's the last couple times here, they've just had restarted. Things have not gone their way in restarts, or he could have won the last 2 races here.
We saw Justin out earlier, the teammate to this car in the 7. He's got the yellow Hellman's colors on this weekend. He took 11 laps and settled in 12th position for the moment. 33 cars have been on track of the 40 or so entered here this weekend. Ty Dillon had big news this week. He's re-upped with Germain Racing in the Cup Series. So that was good to see, the driver of the 13 in that series.
It's one more silly season domino knockdown.
Boy, he saw
still more out there.
I was watching him use his hands off of 4 there, just getting the car just right off the corner. Had to wiggle it back and forth there just a bit. But yeah, how many dominoes are left, Dustin?
Plenty of dominoes, but right there, I don't think Ty Dillon was worried about dominoes, as you mentioned, as you can see with those white gloves. But I mean, we're still waiting on what's going to happen with Richard Petty Motorsports. I know my colleague Nate Ryan had a story earlier this week on NBCSports.com/NASCAR saying, that they're not planning to merge at this point. So we'll see what's up. They still haven't had the announcement of sponsorship. We're still waiting on them with Smithfield. Will Smithfield stay with Richard Petty Motorsports? Will they go somewhere else? If they go somewhere else, that impacts Eric Almirola, obviously. They've had some ties with Darrell Wallace Jr. Where does Darrell Wallace Jr. fit in there? So that's just among one of the many things that are out there. And yet we don't have announced rides yet next season for drivers such as Matt Kenseth, Casey Kane, and Kurt Busch. I mean, you're talking about former champions. Kurt Busch, the Daytona 500 winner this year. Casey Kane winning the Brickyard 400. And all 3 of those guys are in position to make the playoffs. Kurt and Kane are sure to spot by their win, and Kenseth is going for that position by a point. So, and he could be still somebody that could win this weekend. And assure his spot, clinch a spot, and get some playoff points. I mean, that's the thing is for some of these guys right now, it's just getting playoff points because, and forget about Martin Truex Jr. in the Cup side. You're not going to catch him for the first couple rounds, but if you're like, the bottom half, you need 5 points or a couple points here and there because it's going to be a knockdown drag out to avoid being eliminated in the first round or the second round.
It's funny. So much of that you have to keep in perspective when you think about where these drivers are. I was working on 16 different sets of questions for the 16 drivers who will make the field following Saturday night's races, and you really have to keep in mind, Truex is way out there.
Yeah.
But that may not matter to me, especially if I've got a car good enough to, punch my way into the next round. Who cares? It's round by round, and then if I can have a fast car at Homestead too, you still got to beat Truex maybe at that point. But
the challenge is, with Truex so far out, you anticipate he should be able to get through the first 2 rounds. So that takes a spot, and some people think he can maybe get as far as that gets him into the 3rd round. So that takes another spot. So it's one less spot you've got to work with. So that's where you're concerned about Martin Truex if you're somebody else. But other than that, you're looking around at who you're fighting for, and it'll be interesting to see. To me, what I like about this system this year is that it reminds me of 2004 with the chase. In the first year of the chase, nobody knew what was going to happen. They had no idea. Everybody was game planning, but it was to me that was a chaotic, crazy a chase, and that was one where Kurt Busch wins by 8 points. But if you go back and I think he spun out in about 4 or 5 different races. And one of the things I remember most was that Atlanta was one race where he got knocked out early. And so he finishes like 40th, 41st, something like that. Gets on the plane, flies home, thinking he's lost the points lead. Dale Jr. is in position to take the points lead at the end. Tries to pass Carl Edwards on the backstretch, and they make contact. And instead of being a top 5 for Jr., he gets wrecked and falls back. And all of a sudden, Kurt Busch is at home watching on TV. He's back being the leader. And so, to me, I kind of see that as nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the playoff points play into the Cup playoffs, but also the Xfinity playoffs, and what those playoff points mean, and how people will game plan for next year, and what they will do after having a year's worth of knowledge. So, to me, I'm really looking forward to the playoffs because it's just the great unknown. And how many times in a sport do you have that experience where nobody knows what's going on? I mean, look, I know the NFL started last night. The Patriots played, and although they lost to Kansas City, look, most years you expect New England to be in the playoffs. You expect them to go far. If this was if the NFL used the NASCAR system, maybe not. Or something like that. So I just think it's going to be really fascinating to see how this all works out.
Things are a little bit different in the Xfinity Series. You see Paul Menard pulling the 2 car back in. A lot of wins this season from the ineligible drivers for the Xfinity Series Championship, mostly Cup drivers, of course. But then what happens here? A little bit of the unknown as well. William Byron has 3 wins and a lot of playoff points going into round 1. That won't be next week. That'll be 2 weeks from this weekend at the Kentucky Speedway. And so what will that look like? You see our standings on the left there. And you see how Byron has put himself out front there. But, it's going to be interesting, too, because so many of the drivers will get in on points. And then we'll just have to see if it's about wins or points getting round to round in the Xfinity Series as well.
Well, I think if you look at it, too, as somebody like Elliott Sadler, I mean, here's a guy who's, can clinch a playoff spot this weekend. All he needs to do is leave with a 61-point lead. He's up by 91 points, so that should all but happen. But for leading the points, he hasn't won yet. And so, there are playoff points that he's missed out on. Now, how will that impact him as moving forward? Now, the benefit is of clinching the regular season title. That will give him 15 playoff points, and that'll be a big help. But, and maybe it won't matter as much because there's a greater differential in the points. There's not as many drivers with as many points in the Xfinity Series as the Cup. But I'll say this: that's one benefit of the regular season. Everybody talked about you got to give the regular season champion something. Here's a guy who's going to benefit. Elliott Sadler. He's going to get something. He hasn't won a race yet, so he's missing out on those playoff points. But he's going to get the 15 playoff points, and as you can see there on the board, that's going to put him right up there with William Byron right there.
And how about this guy in the green there on the left, safe doesn't need to worry for the next 2 weeks. Probably does need to worry, what do I do now that I'm in the playoffs, Jeremy Clements?
Well, the one thing he has to worry about is he has to make sure he stays in the top 20. He, mathematically, he could still fall out, and then that win and this great finish here would go away.
I thought it was more than the top 20 for Xfinity, but I could be wrong.
But he's got to be careful about that. But I mean, he's in a good shape.
Looking good there at the Road America win. Such an outstanding day, and the right strategy call. Spoke with Danny Gill about that last week at Darlington. Danny Gill came onto this team to be the crew chief on the weekends. Tony Clements, Jeremy's dad, is still running everything in the shop during the week, but on the weekends they called in Gill, an experienced crew chief who lives in the Nashville, Tennessee area. And he was the one that, they talked about it the night before, but he was the one that, put it together and said, I would like to play the race forward rather than backward. I'm not going to worry about the last stop and doing my fuel mileage. I'm going to play it forward for tires. And that's what they did, and they won the race.
Ross Chastain. But I don't see any contact. Maybe just a spin there.
So it won't get the interest of the garage area, like the 28 of Dakota Armstrong did. All right, people are showing me computer screens now. Dustin, tell me what you found.
Jeremy Clements has not yet clinched a playoff spot because he hasn't clinched a top 20 spot in the standings. He's currently 18th in the standings, 101 points ahead of 21st. It can still possibly fall out of the top 20 in the next two races.
All right.
But it would take a lot. Let's be honest. I mean, he's all but in. I mean, again, it's a mathematical thing, but he should be okay after this weekend.
You're at the Richmond Raceway. You're being joined with Dave Burns and Dustin Long joining you. And you can see tore up a little bit of the grass there. If we get a good look at the scope of this racetrack on the inside, it was fun to read this week how they're planning a $30 million renovation of this place for the fans, for the teams, and that's going to be taking place over the next year or so, and that's good to see. This is such a great venue. They've rebranded as Richmond Raceway. Now they're taking it to the next level, and they're going to make things...
Can we just call it R squared?
I'll ask. Now, I didn't see that in the messaging and the branding bullet points, but there you see the infield. There's not a lot of real estate to work with there. It's always been very cramped, but if you take the whole thing down and you start over, there's a lot of ways to make it better, and I think they're going to do that.
Yeah, they'll have new garages for teams, an infield plaza for fans that they feel like will be able to accommodate about 8,800 fans. You'll have a new media center, new backstretch crossover gate, pedestrian tunnel, 80 new consumer RV spaces. So really looking at doing a lot of work with the infield here, and work will begin after this weekend and get going. So. While we look ahead to the future for Richmond, here's a look at what today is like, and it's pretty simple. Keep it on NBCSN, and you'll be able to catch all the Xfinity and Cup action here from the track, from Cup practice at 10 a.m. Eastern all the way to the Xfinity race this evening at 7:30 p.m.
Very busy day, and a quick race tonight, a 250 as opposed to a 300 or something like that. So it goes by fast.
Yes, it does, and it'll be interesting to see what happens, and to see what. And again, here's tomorrow's schedule, and obviously a busy day with the Cup Series running their final race before the playoffs begin with our NASCAR America pre-race show at 5 o'clock Eastern time, all the way through Victory Lap at 11:30 Eastern time tomorrow night. So again, the place to keep it is turn it to NBCSN at 5 o'clock, and you won't have to do anything with your TV till after midnight.
Because it will be at that time that you'll know exactly what happened with the playoffs. And I'm not even going to look until they tell me here's a pretty much official way to look at it, because it's crazy. The way things can change there at the end. You've got the three drivers who are above the cut line with points: Chase Elliott, Matt Kenseth, Jamie McMurray. And then the drivers below the cut line who could possibly move that line: Clint Bowyer, Eric Jones, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez. None of them have a win, and I just got the gnat that's been bugging us all morning, Dustin. I have killed him. I've killed the gnat.
But I'll tell you what, I kind of agree with our colleague Steve Letarte, who has said that he thinks it is going to be more difficult for those guys not in a playoff spot to win and make the playoffs this year compared to previous years. And part of the argument is, all the other drivers out there still, the playoff drivers, they still have something to race for tomorrow night, in the sense of there's 7 playoff points up on the board to get. Whereas, last year, yeah, you wanted to build momentum for the start of the playoffs and things like that. But it wasn't like these guys weren't trying last year. But
right.
there wasn't as much of that motivation for them to take it into, put the car in a spot where maybe they're not as comfortable with. Here, you're going to want to do that because there's the potential to get a playoff point through a stage win or a playoff point. So with the top 13 guys already assured that with the top 13 guys, it seems like they've got something to race for. Now, here's somebody that I guess could upset the apple cart. Although he's going to face some challenges. As you mentioned earlier, Greg Ives isn't going to be his crew chief this week. He's serving the 1-race suspension because they had 2 lug nuts unsecure on the Cup car after the Southern 500. So Travis Mack will be the interim crew chief for Dale Jr. But Dale needs a win. Simple as that. They haven't shown the speed, so can he find some magic later today and pull something off tomorrow? Now, the one thing about Richmond over Darlington from last week is, Darlington, you had to come in. Got a little.
Hello.
Got our attention. But at Darlington, you had to, when there was a caution, you had to come in and pit. You couldn't do a different strategy because tires meant so much. Here, tires still mean something, but not as much at Darlington. So there's the potential, depending on the number of cautions, how you play things out, that maybe somebody can pull off that upset win, or maybe somebody does. Like you're talking about with Jeremy Clement's team, where they, instead of racing race backwards, they went forward and put themselves in position to win at Road America by having tires at the end and able to track down the people. So that'll be fascinating to see what happens there and how teams look at that.
Here was Junior's exciting moment off of turn 4.
How does his hands compare to Ty Dillon's?
About the same.
Yeah.
And neither one of them really wanting to test that. How do we put this new right rear quarter panel on the car theory?
No.
Yes, it should be easier. Yes, it should take less time, but do you really want to put your team through that? No. The idea here is to keep it off the wall. He does a good job of that. He's got a quick race car. It's 4th quickest in single lap times after 12 laps in the books for him. You can see the telemetry data on the bottom there. Not quite to 100 miles per hour down into the turns. And you're a 4-time winner at this track, including his last 3 starts, so numbers look good. Not a lot of Xfinity Series racing for him this year, of course, retiring from the Cup Series. And then next year, potentially a few Xfinity Series races, it sounds like.
Yeah, I talked with, when I was talking to Kelly Earhart-Miller last week, she said at this point, boy, he's really fighting that off of turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, not fun. As of right now, he's only got 1 race on the Xfinity Series for next year. They're trying to get some more races. And I think it's with Goody's a sponsorship. She didn't know exactly what race it would be at. And but it would be one in the South, is most likely. But they're looking for some more sponsorship as now we're seeing more cars out on the track as the temperatures warm up, and teams are kind of starting to run a cycle or so on their tires and getting a little bit more comfortable with where the track is right now.
The Pied Piper out front there.
Yeah.
You want to learn something? Why not follow Kyle Busch?
That's what Brendan Gaughan and Daniel Hemrick are doing.
Hemrick is having an outstanding year in the 21 car. You see Gaughan giving up behind him there, and Hemrick in the light blue car going to the high side, as now Kyle is done with his run. There's Hemrick's 21 car. Showing a lot of promise as Richard Childress Racing signed him to this series.
Yep.
Out of the Truck Series. So yeah, playing their 2-hour window here with warming temperatures. Qualifying this afternoon, 4 o'clock locally. You can see that on NBCSN. And then the race tonight, 7:30 and beyond. So they don't want to fool themselves. They want to make sure that what they're collecting in terms of seat of the pants data from the driver, feedback that he gives them, is something they can actually work with and doesn't send them in a bad direction. Brandon Jones earlier this morning set the quickest time among the Childress drivers. That up in the 3rd position.
And Brandon Jones really could use a strong finish. I mean, he really needs something. I mean, it's been a struggle for them at times, and they really need something to kind of build some momentum and turn things around. And you know, it's just been a tough season for them at times, and they've really got to get maybe today can be a jumping off point to kind of move forward and get a good stretch run going for that team to build something into next year. If not, I mean, you know, if not win tonight and get a playoff spot, but you know, look ahead further.
Ty Dillon shuts it down at Richmond. Blake Cook, fastest so far in 1 lap times today. Looking at averages, he's also got the fastest 5-lap average. Only a few cars have taken as many as 10 laps consecutively, and among those, Justin Allgaier is quickest. And we've seen that a lot this year, the junior motorsports drivers having an outstanding year, and Allgaier among them.
Well, and he led 157 laps here in the spring, and you know, this is a track he's comfortable with, so obviously they're looking more, at least early on, with the long run, and you know, just like Jason Burdett was telling me yesterday, it was just with the temperatures cooler earlier in the session, it relates to toward the end of the race, so I think that they're running, you know, some longer stretches here to kind of build to what's it going to be like at the end of the race. How can we put ourselves back in another position to win a race? Now, obviously, they've had challenges the last 2 races here with restarts, so that's, you know, you still want to be able to put yourself in that position so you have that opportunity to either succeed or mess up. But you want to, you know, any competitor wants to be in that pressure situation and have that opportunity to go for the win instead of being back in 15th. So I think that's one of the things that they're looking at with that team and taking that approach. And they could take a different approach than some other teams because they're set with the playoffs and they are, you know, have been really strong here. So they're looking for a win and trying to make up for what they've missed out the last 2 times here at this track.
Cole Custer having to check up on Spencer Boyd there real quick. Wasn't sure exactly what Spencer was going to do there.
He's going to face the same thing in the race tonight. They'll have those situations at tonight. Now, again, I know you don't like it now when you're trying to run hot laps, but you're going to face that again tonight, so get used to it.
Good early history here for Cole Custer. Made his Xfinity Series debut here last year and finished 6th. Not a bad start. And a lot of talent from this young man. You know, big transition over at Stewart-Haas Racing to Ford this year for the whole company.
Big transition.
But then adding a team here in the Xfinity Series for a lot of good reasons, but you know, not all easy making that switch.
Well, they also had a second car they run in some races.
That's right.
Kevin Harvick finished 3rd in the Xfinity race last week, or if you want to talk about it, you know, I know Stewart-Haas Racing hasn't won an Xfinity race yet this year, but maybe he was the unofficial winner last week since the first 2 cars had the encumbered finish. Now, obviously, the 40, well, that car didn't go through as much of the inspection, so maybe we can't say that, but I think some people refer to the 41 with Kevin Harvick last week as the unofficial winner of the Xfinity race.
That's part of the issue, isn't it? Part of the challenge. If you're going to go ahead and disqualify anybody who crossed the start-finish line first, second, or whatever, then how far down do you take the inspection to make sure you have a legal winner?
And I think NASCAR's point is, okay, it's a night race, so are we going to stay here till midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. to finally declare a winner? And I think some people would say, yes, you would, because that's a heck of a lot better than saying so on Wednesday. Get it out there. I know in the past, you know, NASCAR's belief has always been, look, the winner is the one who crosses the finish line because that's the one the fans, you know, in the stands saw, the fans watching on TV saw happen. But, you know, in this era of where there's such a shrinking world where, you know, social media can get the word out so quickly, I think that's an antiquated argument at this point. So, you know, as Nate Ryan reported on NASCAR America this week, you know, NASCAR is looking at, you know, stronger penalties for those who fail inspection after winning, maybe stripping the wins. And I think, you know, I think based on what you hear on Sirius satellite radio on the NASCAR channel, I think a lot of fans would be for that. Now, I know there's been some talk on social media. I think Brad Keselowski and Jeff Gordon have tweeted about it. And I think, you know, the question is, if you go into stripping wins,
is it a case of is it a case that even a little issue suddenly causes you to have the win stripped away when it's an inadvertent thing or something that happens because of what happened on track? Now, that being said, I think for the fans, I think the fans want absolute. They want black or white. They want to say, look, this car didn't pass inspection for whatever reason, doesn't matter. You lose the victory. Where if you talk to the competitors in the garage, like, look, as you know, these cars go through so much on the track and how much they flex, bend, and parts move and this, that it's easy for something to happen that you did not intend, and suddenly you get busted and penalized for it. But a rule is a rule.
Well, and let me take the flip side of that argument. We were talking about this on the drive-in this morning. You can't have a inspect before the race only because so many of those parts that may move or break might be intended to move or break. These guys are so smart that they could make that work.
But some people in the garage said they would be fine with inspect before. Now, maybe that's because they know the tricks to play, and you do that and go from there. So I just think that, at some point NASCAR's got to figure this out, because at the end of the day, NASCAR doesn't want people talking Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday now, like we're doing, talking about encumbered wins and what should be done when there's the action on the track. This goes against what NASCAR wants, but this is the reality of the situation. Is you're going to officiate like this, and there are rules, and if you don't enforce the rules, then fine. We're not having this discussion, and then the whole garage is running rampant. But if you're going to enforce the rules, and as the sanctioning body, any sanctioning body should, this is what you face.
The only cumber I want are cucumbers on my salad. That's all I'm going to be talking about that. I'm just telling you. Oh, are you reading Jimmy's long note now? Yeah, Jimmy showed me a note here, and it was like 25 lines long, and I refused to read it. But you go ahead and read it, and then you give me the intelligent input, because I just want to watch race cars on the track.
He says he's pretty sure the last time a win was stripped was Dale Jarrett in the Xfinity at Michigan in '95. Martin was given the win 2 hours later. Yeah. Now this was before.
They talked about it this week. Actually, Burton had one strip too, but I think DJ said his.
Well, I remember the Ricky Rudd one at Sonoma. That was before then, but Rudd didn't technically have the win stripped. He didn't have the win stripped because he wasn't given the checkered flag after spinning Allison on the last lap. So, in that sense, he wasn't declared the winner, so he didn't have it stripped. He just was never recognized in the beginning. But I don't know. I mean, I think. For the sport, for fans, they say, look, we want legitimacy. At the end of the day, I think you want what is right and what is the best way to police it. I mean, as a fan or, somebody at the track, I just want to know that everybody's legal. And I'm seeing a fair competition. Just like if I go to any other sporting event, I want to know that I'm watching a fair competition, because I look back, and obviously a lot's been mentioned, is I look back to the home run battle, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. That was great fun to watch, but I feel cheated because it was all artificial and fake, and it's just like, wow, that was a waste of my time, and frustrates me. Now that I'll admit that didn't sour me from being a Cubs fan, because I was infected with that as a youth, and
you never get soured. We know. It's okay.
But hey, last year,
oh, it was a good year for you.
My wife saw me do things and celebrate ways she'd never seen and may never see again.
Oh, I'm sure it'll happen again in your lifetime. I have no doubt. I'm sure a lot of celebrating will be had by this young man, as it already has been in the Truck Series this year.
Oh man, he's got was it 4 wins?
I think it's 4 wins.
4 wins in 15 starts. I mean, he's won a quarter of the races.
Yep.
I mean,
what more can you say? Christopher Bell, a talent, and one of the young guns coming through the ranks.
And in the Truck Series, think about this. He may benefit from William Byron, because part of what happened with the playoff system is, I mean, look at how dominant William Byron was last year, winning 6 races leading up to Homestead. Homestead was a 7th win. He's in position to lead and win at Phoenix with 12 laps to go, and his engine goes, and he doesn't advance to Homestead. And so the winningest driver in the series doesn't make it, and everybody's screaming, look, you've got to have a system where the most successful driver gets into the Final Four. And I think what we're seeing is we're going to see that this year. Unless something catastrophic happens, I would expect Martin Truex Jr. to be at least in the 3rd round, possibly into Homestead. And I think Christopher Bell is probably going to be in the same situation in the Truck Series, that he's going to make it all the way to Homestead. And we have caution. Garrett Smithley.
Smithley is around. Parker Kligerman is in the house, and I just looked over to him for the thumbs up, and I thought we needed another opinion on all the things being discussed here in the Xfinity Series practice. So I'm going to leave you at the con here, Dustin, for just a moment.
Run you off.
No, you haven't run me off. No, not indeed at all. I've had as much of this first hour of practice as I can hold right now. Most fun for me, seeing the drivers coming off of turn 4, and I know that's something Parker can speak to, even though I think it's because we don't have the camera looking in the windshield off of 2. I'm sure there's as much activity there, but watching these guys steer these cars at speed off of turn 4 has been a lot of fun. And there you see actually where they're finding some debris. So if the nose goes down, pull back on the stick. If the nose is up and about to stall, push forward on the stick, and you won't crash this, all right?
We're in trouble.
We're
in trouble.
Dustin Long in charge while we change headsets and bring in Parker Kligerman. Talk to you guys later.
It's Dustin Long's world.
It is.
That's a scary place. That's a scary place to be, that's for sure. Well, as we make the handoff. But, here at Richmond Raceway, it is Richmond Raceway. I keep wanting to say international, but it's been rebranded Richmond Raceway as we look at the infield and have a little bit of break here in the action after the spin there by Garrett Smithley. Looking at the board, Blake Cook is still the fastest so far after the first hour of practice. William Byron is second. Brandon Jones third. Dale Earnhardt Jr. making a rare appearance in the Xfinity Series fourth, and Ryan Reed fifth. So as Dave has said, we've seen some action of cars off of 4, particularly Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Ty Dillon really fighting the wheel. There we see the JD Motorsports cars, and 2 of the cars have spun today so far with Ross Chastain and Garrett Smithley. And now in with us is Parker and Kligerman. So Parker, welcome. And what have you seen so far, man?
I was just going to let you keep going. So I thought you were doing such a great job. Well, from what I've seen here so far, as you guys mentioned, turn 4 is as tricky as ever. It's always tricky because...
Why?
Well, it's one of those corners that you
It's a corner, man.
It's a corner. Well, that's the problem is it's a corner. And, see, a corner is always tough on a racetrack because you're asking the car to do something it doesn't want to do, and that's turn. But there, particularly, you're trying to get the throttle down to get on the straightaway and turn the car at the same time. So when you ask the race car to do 2 things at once, the only thing it likes or does not like doing more than actually turning is trying to turn and do something else at the same time. So
going slow.
Well, it just doesn't like to do that. It's not going to want to do that. So you're trying to turn the car and put the throttle down, and so you hear drivers always struggle with the right work up there and drive off and that sort of thing. So that's what you're seeing here. So not surprising to see that be kind of an issue.
So put us in the seat here. We've got an hour into practice. We still got a little bit less than an hour to go. It's cool temperatures. Now this will relate to the end of the race to some degree. But if you're out there right now, if you're Paul Menard in the 2-car here, or if you're somebody else, what are you wanting to do? What are you wanting to get accomplished here in these next few laps? Maybe if you're not, especially if you're not on a qual run, a Q run, what are you doing?
Well, see, here's the thing. So when you look at these lap times, the way they started today, this racetrack always is super fast after the first car out there. Because
it gives a false read.
Yeah, because there's no rubber on the racetrack, and it just has a ton of grip. So you have Blake Cook, who threw down 21.9, his fastest time, and his last lap time was a 23.3. So a little more in the second in only 23 laps has he fallen off. And that's where you start to feel like what the race car is doing. Now here's the flip side of that. As a race car falls off in grip and you lose the tires, you then lose a bit of your feel because you'll make changes in that race car as you go through this practice and on that same set of tires. And then eventually at some point you'll put on new tires and you'll go, wait a second, this doesn't drive anything like I thought it would. This is terrible. And that's kind of what you have to fight. So at these tracks like Darlington, Atlanta here, you just have to be very mindful of where you know from your experience where you want that car to be. So that's where you want to have things, is to basically be at a position or a place where you're like, you know what, I've felt this before and this works.
Well, okay, as we see a lot of, this is about as many cars as we've seen on track so far today, this morning. Okay, you talk about you rely on that experience. Okay, what about a guy like Christopher Bell in the 20 car? This is his first time at Richmond. Obviously, it's a very good car, but he does not have that experience at this track. This is only his 4th Xfinity Series start. So what is he going through, or what's somebody who's new that doesn't have as much experience? What are they having to deal with?
A lot of guessing.
So that's what it comes down to. You just revealed every secret there.
It's simply guessing. for himself in that situation, he's just going to have to take what he knows from his experience in the Truck Series of places that have had a lot of tire fall off and say, you know what? As I go through this practice and I feel what this car is doing, it doesn't feel like when I was successful in a truck here. And he takes that and he applies it kind of from his memory bank to what he tells his crew chief, and then from there he hopes to find some sort of balance that works. And remember, though, the car he's in, Chris Gabehart is the crew chief on that.
Oh yeah,
a ton of experience. That is where that race team will rely more on their notes, especially if they feel like they're off, than they will on
driver
the driver feedback. And
but the driver's still got to feel comfortable.
Yes.
Because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to be able to take it to the limit. So, look, if you're my crew chief and I'm telling you, and I'm new to this track, I'm like, hey, I'm not.
Wait, before you go any further, how big of a coffee did you have before this practice?
I don't drink coffee.
You don't drink coffee. You are just pure energy, just like that.
I'll be out.
That's amazing.
I'll be out later. No.
Sorry, go on.
I'm pacing myself, man. It's a 16-hour day. You should see me later on. So, but I mean, if I'm a driver and I'm relying on this, and I'm not comfortable, but you're telling me the notes, so how do we work through that?
Well, some of it is the driver will. What you want to do is you want the driver to kind of feel out the car, the track, that sort of thing,
Yep.
and then you start to assess. Okay, here's our speed. How's our speed falling off throughout the run? And if you start to see, he didn't throw down a fast lap time. As we look at the playoff standings over here on the left side of the screen, you see the bubble drivers there, Brendan Gaughan and Dakota Armstrong. As we see Ryan Reed, who does not have to worry about being a bubble driver on the racetrack right now because he has that win.
That Daytona win. Nice thing. You win the first race, you don't have to.
He's been living off that win all year long. It's about to get a little tougher, though.
But unlike last year, where Denny Hamlin's talking about, hey, when we won the Daytona 500, we not that they took it easy, but they experimented. There was still a lot to race for in these playoff points and stage wins and things like that. So that's one of the things with this system that I think everybody likes is that you win a race early on. It's not like you can suddenly take 3 months off. You've actually got to, you take those 3 months off. Those may be what cost you advancing to Miami or to winning the championship.
Exactly. And one guy that will most likely command a lot of the front of this field this race and potentially take points away or stop drivers from getting those playoff points.
But this will be for the last time.
For the last time is this man right here, Kyle Busch, in the 18 Camry for NOS Energy. That is most likely the car to beat. Just put it out there, right there.
Wow, you really went. So
really went there. All those things you just talked about points. If they want to win the race,
that's why you're the analyst, man.
Yes.
Oh man, I got to get a gig like that.
I know, isn't that incredible info? What you were saying about the points, though, I mean, that is the thing about this format is that it has given an incentive.
Now, I think this guy could be the spoiler tonight. He can take points away. Dale Earnhart Jr.
Maybe. He obviously looks strong, and
he's won here before.
He's won here before. He won here last year, and
in spring. Still fighting that wheel off for you. See what the.
Exactly. And you think back to his Bristol Xfinity race. It wasn't great, but there was times there he showed flashes of a top 5 car. He just didn't have the track position. So I feel like he could definitely be a contender.
But the challenge too for Junior Motorsports is that's a 5th car.
Yes.
And this is a composite body, so that's all this extra work that that team and a lot of these teams have had to get cars ready for this race. But then you've got to get the composite body ready and build those cars, and now you've got to add another car because Dale Earnhardt Jr. is running the race. So I mean, it has been a lot of work for Junior Motorsports to get to this point, and they've got all 5 of their primary cars are composite, and they've got 4 backups. I mean, they've got 9 cars, whereas I know some of the other teams, like Joe Gibbs Racing, each of their cars, their primary cars, they are composite, but they only have 1 composite backup. So a couple of the other cars might have to go to the steel body car if they hit the wall. So.
No doubt. It's a tall order for any of these teams, just to have something new, especially when you're in the midst of a season and you think about where they were in the last month. I mean, they've been to road courses, a short track. I mean, this series really threw a lot at these race teams to get these composite body
Jason
cars.
Burdett, crew chief for Justin Allgaier, teammate to Michael Annette, who we see here on the screen, who's trying to hold his playoff spot. Jason Burdett did tell me about how tough it has been on this organization just because, like you said, you're destroying road course cars about every week because everybody just kind of runs into everybody on the road course.
They're the new short tracks.
And yes, and now you're getting these composite cars ready. So I mean, there has been a tremendous amount of work that's taken place at Junior Motorsports, but also a lot of the other teams. As like I said, you're trying to fix up your road course cars all the time with that stretch of the 3 road course races in a 4-race stretch.
No doubt, and that's full of energy here. We're getting life tips from Jeff Burton. You just get streams of info. It's like an entire newspaper just coming straight at you through the microphone. Dustin, you're ruining it for the rest of us with all this info. We thought we had a pretty good gig, Jeff was saying, and now you come in here and just
all right. Well, I got the rookie strike
level us. Yeah, apparently.
I guess now it's time for the rookie hazing.
And speaking of another rookie, Tyler Reddick, they're currently 14th right now. Shown a lot of speed this season at times. I don't think he's quite got the finishes, and very, very typical of a rookie who's sharing a car with a Cup driver, where we feel like they've got speed, they do the things right, but it's just a little bit left to be desired because we know when Kyle Larson hops in that 42 what it's able to do. And I think that's a tough thing for someone like Tyler Reddick. As he comes into this race, he's going to have a lot more opportunities in this car going forward that Kyle Larson will not have, obviously, as we go into the playoffs. And that will help him get a little bit more in the rhythm, that race team work with him a little bit more. But tough place to be. And for any rookie, and a young driver, you got to take the opportunities like that and make the best of them. But that's not an easy opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because I agree with you. Like with Tyler Reddick, I was kind of looking to see a little bit more results-wise. And it's easy to kind of get hung up and forget about that. Yeah, he's not in the car every week, so maybe he's out a week or two, and it's just you don't have that continuity, and that's something that is important for any young driver to kind of get used to that and to go experience all the different things. If he's not racing at one track, he's not getting that experience of what the car's doing or what it's not doing or something like that. Whereas a guy like William Byron on the right, look at all the success he's had. He's been in vehicles. And to me, William Byron is probably one of the most amazing stories in this sport is how little experience he has and how quickly he's climbed in the sport. Now, I know, look, you can make the point, he's only been in great equipment. So some people say, well, wait a minute, how much talent is there? Because he's had the best stuff out there most times. But, in talking with crew chief Dave Ellens, and he's told me in the past just some of the amazing things that you just can't teach that he sees out of William Byron. He sees patience, and he sees the ability to work through and not make the same mistake twice and really be strong. He mentioned like restarts in particular at Iowa earlier this year where it wasn't as good and got better and really kind of handled the competition. So he's been somebody that's really impressed me for as little time as he's been in the car.
Yeah, as we watched his teammate there, Elliott Sadler, is currently 13th from the board, go around. If you want a great example of if William Byron is talented, then go look at Elliott Sadler. Because look what William Byron's done in the same equipment as Elliott Sadler this season.
Fair enough.
There you go. So I think, it's a great argument a lot of times from drivers and teams out there to be like, well, he's only been in great equipment. But then, okay, who else is in his equipment? How many wins do they have, right? So then you start to look at that and look at their experience level. You look at Justin Allgaier. You look at Elliott Sadler. They have not accomplished quite to the level of that 9 car so far this season. And so I think that shows you that William Byron is a great talent. He doesn't need to be proving it in different types of equipment because in the equipment he's in, he wins more than anyone else, and that's what matters.
Looking at Brennan Poole, who is 10th on the board, and you might have seen it on NASCAR America yesterday. Brennan was involved with the folks at Chip Ganassi Racing with raising some funds and some non-perishable food items for the Houston Food Bank for those who have been affected by Hurricane Harvey. And I know, talking with the team official, that just among the cash donations that they received yesterday, that they have received enough money to help with 3,000 meals for folks in need in the Houston area. So, certainly a great effort. And a lot of things are being done in the NASCAR community. Atlanta Motor Speedway is opening up its infield for those leaving Florida, trying to get out of the path of Hurricane Irma. Charlotte Motor Speedway is doing the same thing. Texas Motor Speedway has done a lot of things for those who are affected by Hurricane Harvey. You've had other teams do things. The Hendrick Motorsports drivers.
Currently thinking about everyone at Homestead Miami Speedway right now. Yes. I know they said they were doing all the preparations to try to get that place ready for the hurricane and trying to help their local community in any way they could. So definitely, thinking about him a lot. As we look here at Matt Tifft, who's the 19 car, currently 16th on the board right now. And similar situation if you talk about young drivers who maybe be looking to want a little bit more out of this season. Came so close to winning at Road America. I didn't see that firsthand, or at least live, because I was running behind him in that race. But started to run into him a couple times on the racetrack. I know, but then I saw it afterwards and had to feel for him. Didn't get much of a chance to put up a fight, but what a cool finish at least to be a part of.
So did you run around Jeremy Clements much, or did you see him?
Yes.
So once you found out that he won, was it surprising or not surprising based on? I mean, I know things kind of played out in a different way.
You want my honest reaction?
I'm asking.
What? You know what? I say that, but it's really tough in a race, especially road course, where you can't really see. Even if we get that chance to see the other cars, and we're going to take a look back at Jeremy Clements' win at Road America here. He makes that move down into turn 14 under Matt Tifft. They both get into each other, spin around, and he's able to put it in first gear and accelerate out of there before Matt could.
And think, Michael Annett was third.
Yes,
and he was 10 seconds back. Now, if they don't get restarted, Michael Annett wins.
He wins.
And he's in a safe spot. So you saw the replay there. Okay, Jeremy's got fresher tires. And there was still a lap to go. Did he get over anxious? Or is it unfair to judge him? Because let's be honest, this is a guy who is seeking his first win. It was his 256th career start. He doesn't have many opportunities. Matt Tifft is trying to get his first win. He's going to do everything he can. Are we being unfair to judge? Or did Jeremy go push it a little bit too soon there?
I don't think it's fair to judge him. I think, that was a racing incident. That corner, he was really, really strong in that corner throughout the whole weekend. That corner had been repaved and had a ton of grip, and you saw some guys that were able to really utilize that grip and some that weren't. And so I believe he just, newer tires, had caught the 19. Yep. That corner specifically, he'd been very strong in. It had a ton of grip when you could roll speed in there, and he just sort of rolled it in there and maybe got in a little too hot. And I don't think Matt was expecting him to have the amount of speed that he did through that corner, and that's what we call a racing incident. There was two cars going for the same real estate. They end up in the same position, and they get together, and boom, you end up spinning out. So that's what happened there. I will go back to the fact of, did I expect Jeremy Clements to win? And I believe we have a caution on the racetrack for the red flag up there for debris. So watch Justin Allgaier exit the racetrack in that number 7 car. Nice yellow Hellman scheme this weekend. But back to what I was saying there, Jeremy Clements, I expect it. One thing that's tough is on a road course when we're in the cars, it's tough to see who's actually in position, especially a long green flag run.
Around, so you can't sneak a peek.
Especially that long green flag run. There's one down the front straightaway that we get a peek at just before you brake. 2, I had ran with him a bit, but I saw how fast he was, so I wasn't surprised because he was able to get around us at one point. And then it was funny though. The part that was frustrating for me was when I came out of the pits after our green flag stops and started cycling around. The 5, the 51, and a couple other cars were right in front of me, and that was tough. So let's look at what we have on offer today on NBCSN. Obviously,
smorgasbord of racing.
Yeah, we have just a full slate of stuff here, starting with the Monster Energy Cup Series practice at 10 a.m. You get the second practice. Then we got qualifying for this series, the Xfinity Series, right? And then we head into qualifying for the Monster Energy Cup Series, and then the big kahuna, the race tonight here at Richmond for the Xfinity Series. Should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how this track sort of deals with the tire wear, how much rubber is laid down. We'll start to get an idea of what we'll have on offer tomorrow night for the Cup Series. So stay here on NBCSN all day because it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, let me ask you this. We just saw the replay of Jeremy's win at Road America and the contact there.
Mm-hmm.
We just had last week in the Truck Series.
Oh, I think we found the debris here. we're searching. We've got something.
Paper.
No, that looks slightly metallic, maybe. But see, here's the thing. Fans always want to talk about debris cautions in races.
Yes.
You know that they're erring on the side of caution when it's during a practice. So this is an event we're doing a practice. The last thing anyone wants to have happen is to run over a piece of debris and damage a car, especially with our new composite bodies that we have here, and have to fix that because NASCAR didn't call a caution for something that was on the racetrack. So
we were talking about...
We found something there.
There you go. So we were talking about Jeremy's win at Road America and the contact there. Now, last week in the Truck Series, and you were competing in that race.
Funny, all this stuff happens in front of me. What?
So
Weird.
A lot of people talk about Austin Cindric's bump and run, or some people describe it as a dump and run.
Mm-hmm.
How do you view the things? Are they different? Are they same? At the end of the day, it's contact. The second place vehicle won. So is there really that much of a difference between the two, or how do you view the two different situations that took place in the Xfinity Series at Road America and the Truck Series up in Canadian Tire Motorsport Park?
Before we get a look at that, just a cool look inside the garage here. J.J. Haley's car there on the right now. And you have the 01 of Harrison Rhodes on the left. Just cool to see these guys getting to work on those race cars right now. But, the thing about it is we have, as a sport, continued to put more emphasis on winning, right?
Yep.
And that has been the thought process behind the playoff construction, behind the way we've created playoff formats, and everything we've done is to make winning more important. And we're going back green here on the racetrack right now. You see the 3 there of Ty Dillon starting to roll off. Had probably been already out on the racetrack before, or just rode down the end of the pit lane when the caution came out. And he'll get back up to speed here. But as I said, we've made winning more important. We've put the emphasis on winning, and so therefore, when you put young drivers in position like Austin Cindric to come down to a race that he has been clear-cut the fastest truck all weekend. He was blistering fast in qualifying. I can't describe to you how I felt my lap that I did fourth was perfect. And then I get done, and one, I was just so disappointed when my crew chief said P4. I was like, are you kidding? And then 2, we get out, and I look, and I said, how close are we to 19? He goes, 6/10.
6/10?
And I thought, well,
wait a minute,
we should all just pack up and go home. Yeah, so that was a little bit embarrassing. But nonetheless, he was just incredibly fast. He had the fastest truck. They had a mistake. He was coming back to the field. And because of that, you feel like he could have given a little bit more respect to Kaz to try and get past him. But he was running out of a chance.
Well,
and that's the thing.
Turn 5, and you got
there's not a lot of passing opportunities at Mosport. Mosport is incredible. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It is incredibly fast road course that doesn't allow a lot of hard braking. Therefore, there isn't a lot of hard braking passing zones, and so he didn't have a lot of chances.
Well, Austin said if he makes, he wanted to make the move at 5 because he figured that he would get caught through the S's, and then that would make him vulnerable in 10. But he felt like he had to make the move there just in case, because in 10 you don't know what's going to happen there.
Exactly. And here's the thing: he bumps him out of the way and allows him to stay side by side down. No, we have the caution back out here. Something on the front stretch. 62 of Brennan Gaughan there.
And that is a
slow.
That is a car that is trying to hold on to its position to make the playoffs with only a 20-point lead on Dakota Armstrong. We already saw at the beginning of practice Dakota Armstrong, like in the first lap, hit the wall, scrape the wall, and damage his car. So now we've got the 2 cars that are battling, in essence, for the last playoff spot have had problems in this session. So the drama meter is building in the garage for those cars.
I can tell you that he has always told me himself and Shane Wilson, his crew chief, that he lives on the bubble. Here we're at the end of replay here where you see the smoke. Maybe he'd spun off on turn 4, which I know that's entering turn 1 that he's rolling through slowly, but if you have an issue off turn 4, remember the straightaway on the front stretch is not straight.
No.
So you can kind of slide that car or drift it on the right rear all the way down into turn 1. We've seen that before. Maybe look at those tire marks there. That could have been him. So definitely probably had just losses. We've seen a lot of cars be loose off turn 4. And
so what does that do? What does that do for a guy like Brendan Gaughan? Okay, so if he slides, or anybody that slides, your tires aren't worth anything now. So you only have a couple sets in practice. So what is this? I guess you just lose practice time now, or how does this affect you? And as if you're somebody that spun, what does this do in your preparation now with still essentially about 35 minutes left?
Well, considering he's 22nd on the board right now, he's probably not particularly happy with that race car. Although when I look at his lap times as they got later in that run, his last lap time before that was a 23.3, so that's fairly decent considering we see what kind of fall off a lot of these drivers have had. You know what? That's just for them to figure out. If they're happy with the race car, you basically start to say, okay, how little practice do we want to do now? Do we want to waste another set of tires if we haven't gone to our new set already? Or if we If we haven't gone to it already, okay, then this is no harm, no foul. We'll just put them back on. We'll put the new one on and go. So
we're going to go qualifying trim now.
Exactly. We'll do a qualifying run, and that's it, Brendan. We're done. So that's basically just a game-time decision that he and Shane Wilson and Brendan will have to make. But what's funny about that race team is I've talked to them for the last couple of weeks, and every time I talk to them and I bring up, that situation where they find themselves in the bubble or they get ahead of it, they said, we live on the bubble. We don't care. And, whatever. But I can tell you as they come down here now looking at only 20 points between themselves and being out, that is a tough position to be in. And for that race team, the expectation they have, although they have a lot of fun, they are one of the more fun race teams out there. They, are very lighthearted. They take this seriously, and they want to be successful. And Brendan demands it a lot of times. So I think they definitely are feeling the pressure right now. We close look there at the 18 car of Kyle Busch. Look at what we have on offer tomorrow. Starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN will be the NASCAR America pre-race, followed by Countdown to Green, and then we get into the race, the playoff cutoff race here at Richmond, 7:30 Eastern Time on NBCSN, and then 11 o'clock will be post-race and victory lap.
And a reminder I have to put the plug in too is after victory lap or throughout, when you've got your computer with or mobile devices, make sure to check NBCSports.com/NASCAR for all the coverage from the track from myself, and also have coverage from my colleagues Daniel McFadden and Jerry Bonkowski. I know Nate Ryan, my colleague, also will be on the Victory Lap show tomorrow night from Stanford with Carolyn. So we'll have you covered on TV and on the internet.
Yes, you guys do a great job on NBCSports.com/NASCAR.
We try.
Well, it's incredible stuff that comes out of there, and that's the place where if you want the in-depth reporting and some of the behind-the-scenes and what's happening out there, find it from you guys, for sure.
So right now, as we look at the playoff situation, you've got Brendan Gaughan's on the cutoff. He's the last one that would be in at this point with a 20-point advantage over Dakota Armstrong. Ross Chastain, who also spun earlier in this session, 55 points back. So realistically, Ross is he's going to need help, or he's going to have to pull out a victory to get a spot. But you look at Brendan Gaughan, 20 points to the good of Dakota Armstrong. Michael Annett, 23 to the good. Blake Cook, 44 to the good. So as you look at this situation, how do you attack things? Let's say if you're Dakota Armstrong, okay, it's going to be tough to win the race because there's Cup drivers. You've got Kyle Busch, you've got Dale Earnhardt Jr. and others, and not to be unfair to Dakota, but they haven't shown to be a race-winning team. So that maybe there's that slim possibility. But okay, if you're Dakota Armstrong, how do you attack this weekend? 20 points back, that's still a big gap, even with 2 races to go.
I feel like I'm having deja vu to last season. I feel like it's the same cast of characters in this position last season, especially with Dakota Armstrong. I remember talking to that race team last year. As we get the green flag back out here on final practice for the Xfinity Series, I feel like I'm having deja vu because that team was in a similar position as they came out of Bristol. They were just right there on the cusp of making things happen. He had that great run when he had driven the JGR car at Iowa that year, and now they find themselves in a very similar position, which is, to be honest, for them, they just need to be focusing on getting the best run they can possibly make, because that is the only thing that's going to, just focusing on their performance and then having the other guys, unfortunately, maybe having issues. What's going to get?
But it's easy to be watching the other team or board or things.
And they just can't. If we're going to assess their speed, you would say the 62 and the 5 have been far faster than the 20 throughout the season. But the 20 has been consistent. They've got finishes. They don't have some of the the issues that the other two have had, and therefore they find themselves in the position of being on the fringe of making the playoff. But the 62 and the 5 are definitely more well-funded cars and more vintage.
And what's interesting, the struggles for Dakota Armstrong, hitting the wall in the first lap. He hasn't been out on track since. And this is a 2-hour session, and we've got less than 30 minutes to go. There's a lot of pressure building there because if for some reason they don't get everything fixed and they get one lap before, and now obviously they can use qualifying as a practice session. That's what they'd have to do. But that's not a way you want to go into tonight's race when you're trying to fight your way in, as we look at JGR teammates Kyle Busch and Matt Tifft on the track. And let's just give you a rundown of a couple things here. Best 10-lap average is Justin Allgaier's been the quickest, followed by Spencer Gallagher and Blake Cook and Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell. We look at those who have run the most laps. Tyler Reddick has run the most laps. He's out on the track now with 67 laps. Christopher Bell, his first time here at the track, he's run 62 laps. And you have Ty Dillon at 47, Dylan Lupton at 44, and Spencer Gallagher at 43 as we watch Matt Tiff. And, again, he's in a pretty good spot in the playoffs. I mean, if some crazy things happen, he could be in trouble, but it looks like he's going to be racing for a championship, or at least have that opportunity. And how do you assess, or what do they have to do moving forward as they get ready for the playoffs here in a couple of weeks?
Well, you've slightly distracted me by those 5, 10 lap, 15 lap averages, because what I'm seeing on there is the 7 car being very competitive on the 10 lap average. And that's very interesting to me, knowing how well Justin Allgaier runs here. And as we look there, William Byron on the left side there in the 9. You've got Matt Tiff in the 19 on the right side. So a little bit of movement here on the time board right now. But as I go back to that, one thing that strikes me is that, he won at Phoenix this year. That although it's very vastly different design, it is similar in how you drive and some of the things that you use to be successful at Phoenix, you use to be successful at Richmond. So that doesn't surprise me to see that 7 there. He was really fast here last year, very competitive. So that could definitely be, this could be a very
he could have won. I mean, he could have won the race here in the spring, could have won last fall. And I talked with Jason Burdett, his crew chief. His restarts have kind of bit them the last 2 races here. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Justin Allgaier coming in, trying to win his 3rd consecutive race at Richmond.
As you say that, the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. drives around the outside of Matt Tiff, like he was sitting still right there. Good move by Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's using that outside lane. Look at that, a little bit higher right now, maybe about a full car length off the bottom. See if he does that same thing down into turns 3 and 4. Maybe he's trying to fail out that outside lane, which he does right now. So that's interesting to see. He's starting to diamond the racetrack a little more, getting that little bit of wheel movement off of turn 4, but definitely using that outside lane, and that's something I believe we will continue to see. As these tires wear, the rubber lays down on that bottom lane, being able to use that outside lane to diamond the racetrack like Dale Earnhardt Jr. is doing is really important.
So how does that help him with his Cup car? I mean, obviously, you're going to be at the bottom for speed for your qualifying when you do your Q runs. But so can he pull anything out of this and take to one of the 2 Cup practices later today, or is this just relevant to this car only?
No, I definitely think it helps. I think, we always ask that question: what do you learn from doing this from the side, from the Cup side? And it's simply a lot of times maybe just being on the racetrack, just feeling out Richmond Raceway, being able to go out there and turn laps. But then small things like that where he's already now run that middle groove. He's gone up there and felt it and ventured out there and done some of the things he has to do in the car to be able to run that outside groove is only going to make him up to speed a little bit quicker in that Cup car, especially when you're going to do that more often in the Cup car. Here we see the 3 of Ty Dillon going around the racetrack. Right now this is a move he made on the 42 of Tyler Reddick, and then he gains a lot on the 19 there of Matt Tiff and goes right around him as Matt is going to go down in pit lane. And that's something you'll have in practice here a lot of times because it's not easy to get slowed down to get on pit lane once you're coming off turn 2 and you're trying to not be in the way of cars that are on fast laps like the 3. So you'll see that. But definitely looking strong in the 3 car right now. Right on the bottom, stable. Not as much movement off turn 4 as we see on the 88, which is nice. And now the current and been the leader for this entire time, Blake Cook, there in the 11 car. Right on the bottom, looking good.
And I'm guessing he's got another set of tires. I think previously as one of his recent lap times was a 23.8, so he's down to a 23.0. So he's probably, I'm guessing he's put tires on and making another run here to kind of get ready for tonight's race.
Yeah, consistently down in 23.0. So
and his fast lap, as you may know, came early. Beginning of practice when the track is green and the track is fast at that point, so it does kind of give a false read in that sense of really how good you are.
We look at the playoff standings in the 11 car right there. 44 to the good right now. I'd say he can feel pretty safe. And this is a team, though, that's funny enough, just a couple weeks ago was not in that position. And they have put themselves in that position with great finishes and hard work, and his very animated crew chief Chris Rice going out there and keeping things light amongst those guys. But they've done a great job with that 11 car. And last season, that team came together very late.
Yes.
They were. It was basically in January that came together, and they were once again a playoff contender then. And then as we come into this season, they're even stronger yet. So I think it's been very impressive to see that race team grow.
So what might Blake be getting by running behind Brad Keselowski, as we saw there?
If he's seen something that's doing better, but right now he's actually a little faster than Keselowski. As you mentioned, could be on a different situation tire-wise right now as he runs him down, but you can start to see just maybe some line differences, that sort of thing. But really, when you're in the position that he's in with a very fast race car right now, you need to continue to focus on your race car, what you need to do better, because that's what that 22 is doing. Here we have the 16 of Ryan Reed right now, locked into the playoffs after that win at Daytona. As he runs a little bit higher right now. Ooh, way higher. He's almost fully up in the second groove right there. Got a lot of wheel movement off turn 4 right now. Currently 5th on the board and running lap times about 3/10 off of the last guy we were looking at there, Blake Cook. So somewhere in the middle of a run right now on those tires. And this place is funny because where you are with where Ryan Reed is right now, where he's moving around, he's starting to search and such, there's times where you'll turn a lap and you'll be like, that was the slowest lap I have ever turned. And the crew chief comes across and goes, good lap.
Keep it up. Do it again.
Yeah. Like, what? I'm not even moving around this place compared to when you first went out there on your tire. So it is incredible how much it slows down, and which is a lot of fun for us. But, I got a question for you, Dustin. I get a lot of people that come up to me about this racetrack, and they say, tire wear, fall off, all that's great. Let's bring back that sealer that we had and such, and see them run around. I mean, you were there at that time. I was a little young to have been there, and I watched those races, and I think that does look cool. Why not? So, what did you see at those times?
Yeah, I mean that's it was entertaining for sure. You ran up high, and you gave multiple lanes. But again, as you see, guys are working at multiple lanes here. They're going to find their way up. I think one of the differences between then and now is as Goodyear works on this tire, it allows these guys to kind of move around a little bit more on the track. It's not as hard of a tire as what it once was. When it was in that type of situation, then the sealer does help, and we're seeing this at other tracks. As we see Michael Annette get underneath Dylan Lupton in here in practice. But you're seeing other tracks with putting the traction compound on to kind of help with it. I don't know if this place needs it, and I think what they've got is good right now, and I think it's kind of evolved since then. I think in that period it helped it. It did make the racing exciting, but I think the racing's been plenty good here in recent years that I don't think this is one track that you really need to do anything to it or touch the surface at all.
Yeah, I think back to the spring race here in the Cup race, and there was a time where there was 3 or 4 cars. That man right there, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, I can't remember who else was involved in that. It was like a 4-way battle. It was incredible in the middle of the race, and I thought, wow, this place has really come into its own. Like, this is awesome to watch. And I guess the only reason that sealer has come up is that because people have mentioned that, if the cars were going faster, they were keeping the speed in the racetrack, that sort of thing was interesting to see. But, I find it funny that it's always a discussion about that sealer. It's just people always reminisce about it, but what we've got now is not very different. And what I've seen is that at times when we've got those cars moving all the way up 3 grooves, it's pretty cool to watch. I enjoy it a lot. So we watched Dale Earnhardt Jr. go around the racetrack here. Right now, still 4th on the board. We have not had a lot of movement in terms of fast lap times, and I don't suspect we will. Ooh, he catches
David Starr. Now let me tell you a little something about where we got David Starr on the screen here. But David Starr is from the Houston area. Now he is living in the Dallas area, but I know he talked in a story on NBCSports.com/NASCAR with Daniel McFadden that he plans to go back to Houston after this weekend to help out in the recovery efforts. And I know David says he was quite impacted in seeing what was going on in Houston. Like I said, he's living in Dallas now, so he's not affected, but he used to live in Houston. He's got friends and family there, so he plans to go to Houston and spend about 3 or 4 days there helping out in the recovery effort. David Starr of the 99 car there, as we see down on pit road. So again, another example of somebody in the sport doing something to help those affected by Hurricane Harvey, and things that people are doing and trying to help out for those who may be affected by Hurricane Irma as it heads up toward Florida here in the coming days.
And that doesn't surprise me, because David Starr is one of the nicest guys to run into in this sport. I know you hear that a lot, but he always has a massive smile on his face, whether it's in the airport, delayed when I've run into him, or at the rental car counter in a huge line. And most people are not looking very upbeat. He is sitting there with a huge smile on his face, enjoying life. So
he's going to another race.
Exactly. It does not surprise me to see him try and bring some of that enthusiasm and effort and work down to Houston and the recovery efforts there for Hurricane Harvey. As we watch William Byron there in the 9, another guy that seems upbeat a lot of times, but he's got a lot to look forward to in life right now, going to the Cup Series next year. As you look on the left side of your screen, his more experienced teammate there, Elliott Sadler, in the 1 car, who's currently 13th on the board still. So they're continuing to turn laps right now on the bottom. And I think, as I said before, it's interesting because people like to have that conversation about the fact of William Byron's been great equipment. But I keep going back to, if it was just the equipment, why is Elliott Sadler not on?
Well, I can say Elliott Sadler's the points leader, and he's had what, 17 top 10s, more than anybody else, 9 top 5s. Okay, he doesn't have the 3 wins like William Byron, but he's done as much as in that equipment to some degree, in some sense maybe a little bit more, although even though he doesn't have the win. So I'll challenge you that way. So, okay.
I see your argument, but I raise you that we just talked about the importance of winning, and that it's all about winning.
Oh, yeah.
And a man who's as experienced as Elliott Sadler, why not win races?
But let's see what happens in this playoff.
I'm just getting some info here.
Okay.
I just want to bring this up, that we have William Byron, who has 8 runs so far on the racetrack, but his longest is 7 laps. Ooh, he gets way high up the racetrack right there. That's not. So you want to get to that lane, but you want to do that about 50 laps into a run, and you're making ground, not in practice. Meanwhile, Elliott Sadler has 7 runs on the racetrack and only 7 laps. His longest run is 7 laps right now. So let's see if we can get another look.
Let's see how close he got to the wall there.
It's way up high. Oh, just got in the dust. So that will happen. So there you saw his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. and owner behind him. He was trying to do a wide entry, which can work here a lot of times, especially if you are starting to get tight, or vice versa, starting to get looser. You can start to widen up that entry, try and make a bigger arc into the corner.
He's still doing a little bit.
Well, that's a lot earlier. Yeah. So there, and he'll run the second groove there. So you can try to do that, even especially when you're running higher on the racetrack, you'll have that higher entry. But when you're the first car there, there's a lot of dust. There's a lot of rubber that's been kicked up there. As the cars run around, they force all the debris up in that area. And so he just got his right rear a little high, got in the dust, got a little loose, held on to it, and kept going.
So when you get a situation like that, how long does it take to get the tires clean? I mean, obviously we saw him go back and go somewhat high the next lap. I mean, what kind of a challenge is that for the driver to get up high as we watch Kyle Busch work his way through practice?
We should add that William Byron finished 30th here in April after getting involved in a little bit of incident on the restart.
Yep.
So hoping to improve on that. But yeah, one thing you'll do is that you'll practice, especially a long one like this. There's times where you will just experiment. And think of yourself as a scientist out there trying to just find a little something, maybe some magic that no one else has found. And key also not to, show everyone that exists. So if he does go up there and it's a ton of grip and someone's like, wow, that was impressive, he knows for the race later tonight, I can go there. And that's the sort of thing. Now, on the flip side, he went up there thinking, I'm just going to try a little wider entry, or I'm going to try and roll more speed from the top. And he got loose and he thought, okay, that's not ready. And so that experiment failed. And you'll have to just, chalk that one up and see if it works later on in the day as the Cup cars get on the racetrack for 2 practices. They qualify, the Cup cars qualify, and then you get the race. So definitely just exploring the racetrack right there to see what's on offer and where it might go, because we all believe it can move around.
How long does it take for you to, as we look at the playoff points here in the Xfinity Series and where Cole Custer stands, 123 points to the good? So
I'd say he's good.
He's good.
Do you want to bet on it real quick?
Fine, I'll take he's in, and you can have me not.
Right. Can I get 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1?
So you're talking about you find something in practice. So how quickly does that happen? Is that one corner, one lap, and it's something you find? Do you go up there and run just to verify, or do you say, hey, I found something, I'm getting away, and I don't want to show anybody?
It's a combination. You will have times where you found something and you don't care that everyone sees it because you want to find out more about it. So, like, say at a racetrack where you suddenly go up to the wall, like Chicago, and we might see next week, is that you'll go to the wall and there's a ton of speed because there's no rubber up there, and you might run 3 or 4 laps and everyone will see that you're moving very fast. But you're going to do it because you know what, I got to figure it out, there's bumps up there, etc. And then there's times where you're just kind of, you're feeling it out, you're experimenting, and you'll start to see there's something there, but it's not worth ruining your tires in practice. It's not like there's super amounts of bumps up there that's going to change the way the car handles when you get up there. And so you'll kind of feel it out, start to, a lot of times you'll do that at the end of practice in the last run. You'll just go up there and not even care about the lap time because you'll say, I was just feeling it. And that will happen as well. So it's a combination. There's no clear-cut strategy. Obviously, everyone is different. You've got multitudes of different driving styles, obviously different race cars, all these things that, there's a lot of variables that don't make it very consistent from person to person, but it's definitely something that a driver tries to kind of put in the arsenal as something to use later on. As we look at Christopher Bell there in the 20 car, going around right now, currently 17th on the board. Didn't get that quick, fast lap off the bat, but his lap times now, as I believe they've gone to newer tires, look very competitive. And that's one thing that Chris Gabehart and that who's the crew chief there on the 20 that we'll be looking at. So they didn't do that fast lap. But he'll be looking, now that they're on new tires, okay, how did everyone stack up? And these teams will kind of break this into 2 different practices in a lot of ways. Although it's one long one, they'll break it up and say, all right, here's where we were, and then when we put those new tires on halfway through or towards the end, here's where we stacked up. And look, we're right with so-and-so and so-and-so.
And you look at the laps run, he's run 79 laps so far in this session, second most to Tyler Reddick, who's run 95 laps.
Look who's back out.
Yeah.
Hey!
After his incident.
He spun it off turn 4. I believe it was on an out lap, we found out. And now he's back on the racetrack, turning laps. So no harm, no foul for Brendan Gaughan. Looks a little loose on entry there. That is never fun to have happen here at Richmond. When you get loose on entry, it is sort of a ride you don't want.
And again, Brendan's on the cutoff in the playoff points.
Yep.
And 20 points ahead of Dakota Armstrong. Dakota has only been on the track for 1 lap today. On his first lap, he scraped the wall and early in the session, so he has not been out yet. So Dakota Armstrong trying to race his way into the Xfinity playoffs here. And still in the garage, we've only seen him out for 1 lap. Brendan Gaughan out there right now. This is 26th lap. And we can see some of the struggles as he's still trying to work with this car. And Brendan has talked, he likes Richmond, but it's not a good track for him. He just does not have a good record here, and he's really struggled. He's tried all sorts of different attitudes of when he is, trying to approach how the weekend will go, and he's tried different approaches, and it just hasn't worked. The end result is he just does not have a strong finish here a lot of times. So there's an opening for Dakota Armstrong, but with hitting the wall, they put themselves way behind.
Yep, and for Brendan Gaughan, actually, there was 40 minutes between his time lap and the spin and then this set of laps. So it's been a bit of a lull there for the 62 as they figured out what to do with that race car. But I actually didn't get to see what happened to Dakota Armstrong, so I'm going to rely on you a little bit for this. But what's interesting about that is that we know, and I know you discovered this as well, is that these teams were very, very hesitant to say what exactly is going to happen if you did get damage with these composite bodies. What does it take to fix them? How long does it take? That sort of thing, to make sure that it lines up, that you can get the parts and pieces back connected in there. So right now we've seen that he did that in his first lap at the beginning of his practice, and now we're coming up to 10 minutes ago, and he still hasn't turned it around. That must have been, I don't know how hard he hit, I didn't see it, but
we only caught the end of
it. Damage.
We only caught the end of it on the replay, and but you could see the scrapes along the right side, and then the question is, with how hard he hit it, how much damage did he do inside, underneath the quarter panel? There may be crush panels or some other things that they've got to rebuild and redo and things like that. So it becomes a process, as you know. So, but obviously it was enough of a contact that they have not been out since. So 1 lap for Dakota Armstrong, and trying to race his way into the Xfinity playoffs, and certainly pressure is building. Now he's got qualifying coming up, and my guess is they'll just use that as a practice session, and we'll kind of see what they're able to do.
And that is one of the things about the new qualifying performance we've had, as we look at Brandon Jones go around here, and just now under 10 minutes to go here in practice. He is 3rd on the board throughout this session, and turning solid lap times right now, as he's done 45 laps in this session. Before we get off him, it's been a hard season for him, but we'll get more of that later.
Yeah.
that, that is the thing about this new qualifying format, is that we've seen teams do that before, where if they have a wreck in qualifying and they have to bring out a backup to go, a wreck in practice and they have to bring out a backup to go to qualifying, they can use that first session, especially if they're very confident in their speed, to kind of be a little bit of practice. You can go out and run 2 runs and no harm, no foul. Go out and do a run with
you're burning your tires a little
exactly,
bit, so.
but you can definitely do that and get away with it. A lot of times when you have a car that's solidly going to be in the top 24, they're going to make it in through the next round. They don't mind that so much. So, and then they kind of throw away their qualifying position. But if that's important, this qualifying format allows you to do that sometimes. So that is interesting. That this team.
And you talk about a backup, and NASCAR sent out a bulletin this week for the Cup Series revision for 2018. Anytime during the weekend you have to go to a backup, you're going to the rear, which isn't always the case. And they also came out with the engine rule where you're going to have the sealed engines and have to run, an engine multiple races 13 times. So you're going to see some changes in the Cup Series next year with backups and engines, and any type of engine change throughout the weekend, you go to the rear, and including for the Daytona 500. This year for the Daytona 500, you can change engines after the qualifying race. Next year, it's going to be the single engine rule for the Daytona 500 the entire week. So,
which is smart.
Yeah.
I think the owners and a lot of people within the sport are begging for a cost-cutting measures, and only doing things like that is only going to force us to be smarter with our equipment and make equipment be a little bit last long, have a little bit more longevity. So we look at the 2 car there of Paul Menard right now. I always make sure when he does Menard, because I'm like, wait, am I looking at Brandon Jones? Am I looking at Ben Kennedy? Am I looking at Paul Menard? So I am looking at Paul Menard right there, 2 car, who is the teammate to who you just saw get off the racetrack. That's the 21 of Daniel Hemrick, who became kind of the road course ringer in the Xfinity Series in a lot of respects. I think he just surprised a lot of people with his ability on the road courses this past month, having some great runs, a great run at Mid-Ohio, a great run at Road America. Really impressive what Daniel Hemrick was able to do on the road courses, considering that was not his background. As we look at Richard Childress Racing overall, right now you got Brandon Jones in 3rd, Ty Dillon there in 8th, and so on and so forth, down to our buddy there, gone all the way to 22nd. And Menard actually is 24th. So it's kind of spread throughout there, Richard Childress Racing team.
Which is,
got some up front, some all at the bottom.
Which as a team you don't want to see. You want to see a lot more consistency.
That is definitely not what you want to see. You would like to see all of those cars grouped up in the top 5, and then you say, our job is done. Let's move on, guys. Thank you very much. Hand us the trophy. So.
And it's also with Brendan gone 22nd now. If that's where he qualifies, that puts him back. If that transition leads to what happens in qualifying, that's where he starts. Then he's going to have a little bit of a battle coming up, and if he gets caught in something, then suddenly that 20-point lead over Dakota Armstrong certainly it makes you nervous. I mean, there's only so many things you can control, and it's the things that you can't control are things that worry you most in that sense.
No doubt. As we look at Brennan Poole in the 48 here, going off turn 4 right now. Impressive season for Brennan Poole so far this year. I know he's been surprised a lot of times. I think he's been surprised a lot of times how well they've run this year. And I say that in the sense that last season, he's told me many times, there's 207 points to the good right now in the playoff standing teams. Definitely
there he comes up on his teammate, Tyler Reddick.
Comes up on his teammate right there, who's struggling a little bit more right now up turn 4, and gets the inside and easily goes by him. Last season, he felt like a lot of times they had the speed and they didn't finish races. And this year, a lot of times they didn't have the speed, but then he would find himself in the top 5 at the end of a race, or easily in the top 10, or making positions at the end of a race and going, how am I in this position? And so I think that's really interesting, but it's another thing that happens a lot in this sport, which is that we talk about being in position to win, being in position to make things happen. And what you learn as a driver is that sometimes it's not always about speed. If you look at the guy who's the best at that, that's the one car that it's happening. If he were to go qualify 18th today and start there, I bet half this field would say, yeah, but you can't count him out. Because he'll find a way to move, maneuver, and his pit strategy and such to find himself in the front by the end of the race. And that is what experience gets you. As we look right now, we're just under 5 minutes to go as we take a look at the 5-car of Michael Annett, who had that great run of Road America, as you brought up, that found himself gaining a lot of points to be in a better position in the playoff standings. not quite been the season that he had hoped in that 5 car. There's been a lot of struggles throughout the season, just not quite up to speed the way they felt like they should be. When we think back to Mike Bonnet being in the Xfinity Series, I think back to that when he drove for Richard Petty Motorsports, and he was very, very fast, week in, week out. A lot of very competitive in that 43 car. Went to the Cup Series for a couple of years, and now finds himself back in the Xfinity Series at Junior Motorsports, and has not quite had the season he'd hoped, but actually in the last 4 races, he's had 3 top 10s, which has been good stuff to get things moving.
Looking at the board at some of these consecutive laps, I look at the 15-lap runs, and you look at who's on top, and that's Christopher Bell, and obviously it makes sense. He's running a lot of laps because this is his first time here, but he's ahead of Brad Keselowski, Dale Jr., Ty Dillon, and Cole Custer. So it's interesting, Brad Keselowski, Dale Jr., Ty Dillon, Cup drivers running long runs here, and so far Christopher Bell is ahead of them. So what do you take out of that? How do you look at that, especially with the Cup guys running those longer runs there?
Joe Gibbs Racing's still fast.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Joe Gibbs Racing, there's a guy that's really fast. Yeah. Kyle Busch, once again, that's my work here. I'm done. Thank you. I'll be showing myself the door. But
there it is, man.
I think that is impressive. That kind of goes back to what we said, which is, yes, he didn't turn a fast lap time off the bat. Yep. But when he put that different set of tires on and to go out there and run, that's what Chris Gabehart and that 20 team is going to look at. Okay, where do we stack up then? And now he'll look at the 5 and 10 lap and 15 lap averages, and they'll look at the averages throughout the entire practice, and they'll assess, okay, you know what, we do this. It took Chris a little bit of time to figure it out, but then boom, we were there. Look, right now, what we have on offer tomorrow. Well, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the NASCAR America Pre-Race on NBCSN, which brings us right to Countdown, and then the playoff cutoff race for Monster Energy Cup Series from Richmond. We'll find out who will be the 16 drivers to go and race for the Monster Energy Cup Series Championship in the 10-round playoffs, 10-race playoffs, sorry. And then we have post-race 11 followed by 15, which will be fun.
And here at Richmond Raceway, a little over 2 minutes to go in the Xfinity practice here. We're getting ready for tonight's race, and as we see Brennan Poole and Dakota Armstrong now back on the track for the first time since that one lap. So he's back getting a few laps here before the end of the session. Just a reminder, at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, make sure to switch it over to NBCSN for coverage of the Cup practice. There'll be 2 Cup practices today. We'll also have Cup qualifying and Xfinity qualifying leading into tonight's Xfinity race. At 10 a.m. Eastern Time, you can flip it over to NBCSN and just keep it there all day, because we'll have it all covered here from Richmond Raceway as we wind down. Like I said, Dakota Armstrong on the track. That's his 11th lap at the time. And he had that incident on the first lap right at the beginning of practice and missed basically, I want to say, an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. Making repairs to that car. So a last-minute run here for Dakota to kind of get some information to get them ready for qualifying. Again, he's 20 points behind Brendan Gaughan for what would be the final cutoff spot. So a lot of important time that he lost today. And so he's trying to recoup whatever he can in this last minute of practice.
And what's important for him right here is that he needs to go out there and basically assess the race car. This is not about turning a fast lap. This is not about being able to. So
is he pushing it hard and putting himself in uncomfortable positions, or is he just, or how's
Well, you need to go. You need to find out what speed's in it, but also at the same time, you need to go out there and figure out what does this thing need to. What do I need to change? Because this is all the info I'm going to get. Yep. So I need to come out of this run here with my 5 or so laps that I got and say, okay, we need to work on this, this, and this, and then his crew chief can go to work there. As we come down to just 30 seconds left. He's going to bring it down pit lane. That's all he's going to have in this practice. So they'll have hopefully something to work with there.
14 laps to work with. So as we come down to the final seconds, as you can see, Blake Cook, the fastest of this session. He got that lap early in the session when the track was green. William Byron, as you can see here, second on the board. Brendan Jones, third. Dale Earnhardt Jr., fourth. Ryan Reed, fifth for individual laps. You want to look at 10-lap averages. Justin Allgaier was the leader there. Spencer Gallagher. You had Brad Keselowski, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Blake Cook. And so the flags are over. Practice is over here. And now get ready to flip over to NBCSN. to watch Cup practice, which begins at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And keep it on NBCSN the rest of the day, as we'll have the Cup practice at 10 a.m., and we'll have 2 Cup practices today, Xfinity practice, the qualifying for the Monster Energy Cup Series, and tonight's Xfinity race, where Parker says keep an eye on a guy named Kyle Busch.
That's my expert analysis.
All right, folks, well, we appreciate joining us online, and get ready to flip over to NBCSN for Cup practice coming up now.